it's an intention. You say, this is what we intend to do. We went to the second phase of the transition because we want to step up our efforts, both on the socio-economic transformation and on the political and democratic transformation. So stepping up those, we have to say we're entering a second phase, and it is a clarion call for everybody to pull up the socks. That's the first thing. That's why you will look into what we have done over the last 18 years before we reach this stage. We appreciate the fact that if you talk South Africa, I would imagine it's the only country in the continent that actually gives the lower end of society free houses. We've distributed about 3 million houses, the so-called RDP houses. Basic structure for a poor family, out of a shack into that basic structure. We have actually connected many new households with electricity and water. We have improved many aspects of life in society. Sanitation, you get tap water in rural areas, you get sanitation in rural areas. That is what we have done thus far. We have 15 million people getting social grants of one kind or another. All that is focusing on the poor end of society. But what we are saying is we cannot continue that way forever. We must step up increasing the productive capacity of the economy so that people are involved in productive activity rather than waiting for grants and therefore stay at home, bask in the sun and wait for the government to deliver. We must transform society into an active society that is actually determining their own destiny. That is what this is all about, so that our people are not spectators in a theater of change around them. But we're calling on government to do specific things. For example, more intervention in the economy, more interest in productive mining, more intervention in distribution of land. Remember that 2013 will be a centenary of the Native Land Act. Therefore, we should step up the question of redistribution of land. And from where we are seated, we don't think that the issue should be checklist of so many hectares given back to the people. We must also appreciate the fact that dispossession also constituted de-skilling of society. You push off the land, you lose the skills of farming. If you are given the land back, you must be assisted to reacquire the skills for farming and have support mechanisms for that person to continue producing, because land cannot just be number of hectares. It should be food security and food production.
On issues most important to our viewership is that of mine nationalization as well as that of land appropriation within the concept of land reform. How do you think the conference has gone to address investor concerns on this one?
If the investors are expecting us to sit back and do nothing, I think their expectation is actually unreasonable. We are one of the richest mining countries and mining economies in the world. We're actually in the top 3. But in terms of rating, we're 53, precisely because we have mining that actually produce abject poverty. Around mines, you can go anywhere. You can go to Carletonville if you don't want to travel to Limpopo or Rustenburg. Just go to Carletonville, you see that. You see all these big shafts, nice, good looking, but around them is abject poverty. If the expectation of investors is that we must do nothing about that, then that expectation is unreasonable. What we have resolved to do is that the state will take an active interest in mining, in productive mining, because the state administers the mineral deposits below the surface of the soil, and the private companies pay some minimum tax called royalties to the state. It doesn't change the lives of the people. The state must take an active interest. We've established a mining company. That mining company must be active. And our view is that when we talk of strategic nationalization and we clarify that we reject wholesale nationalization, we want to tell the investors that they must not expect that we'll wake up after December and nationalize mines that belong to private companies. That is not going to happen. But they must expect that That mining company, which is given the responsibility of housing the interests of the state, is going to be more active in that space. They must be ready to partner with it in productive mining.
Right.
Even in land, you will see that we're very clear in terms of no land without compensation, except in cases of land that has been acquired illegally. Very clear. But we're looking into 3 types of land tenures. We're looking into state land. It can't be sold. It must be leased. Land owned by foreigners, they must be given long leases with conditions. You can't give land away, and you find that we have South Africa that half of it belongs to everybody else except South Africa. That must change. And I think that is not something new in South Africa, it's everywhere in the world. Majority of countries, nobody can own land who is a foreigner in any other country. We are moving to the direction which is a global trend. But long leases on condition. You must be productive on that land. You can't lease that land for 99 years and sit on it.
Well, coming to the small matter of our neighbor Swaziland is that of Lindiwe Zulu, ANC advisor, who told the media that South Africa would be pushing for political unbannings in Swaziland. Is this a policy stance now?
She was speaking for the International Relations Subcommittee of the ANC and reporting on the resolution of that commission. So it's not a presidential directive. It is an organizational directive that Swaziland cannot remain a monarchy as it is now. It can be a constitutional monarchy, but political activity must be opened up. Democracy must be opened up. In the coexistence between ourselves and Swaziland is actually very awkward because we're a democratic organization and a country. We sit with a monarchy where there is no political activity that is opened. We sit next door to Lesotho, which is a constitutional monarchy, who is the head of the state, but there's democracy, multi-party democracy in Lesotho. That is our view.